You know that feeling, right? That prickly, super uncomfortable sensation that you're under a microscope. Maybe you're walking into a party, or you're about to give a presentation, or maybe it's just a bad hair day. Whatever it is, it feels like every single eye in the room is on you, judging your every move. But what if I told you most of that feeling is all in your head? Seriously, think about it. You're up on stage, your hands are shaking, your voice is kind of cracking, and you were just convinced that everyone in the audience is watching a slow-motion train wreck. Or how about this? You drag yourself into work after a terrible night's sleep, you feel like an absolute zombie, you're positive your boss sees every little mistake, every yawn. It feels so obvious, right? Well, this feeling gets right to the heart of what we're digging into today, and it's an idea that, funnily enough, was captured perfectly by Charles Dickens way back when. He understood that there's this huge, massive gap between the storm of emotions we feel on the inside and what the rest of the world actually sees on the outside. Turns out, we're not the open books we think we are. So that feeling of being watched, that sense that you're totally transparent, it's not just you. In fact, these are real, well-documented psychological phenomena. And once you can actually put a name to them, you can start to understand them, and even better, you can start to take away their power. Okay, first up is something called the spotlight effect. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's the feeling that a giant, glaring theatrical spotlight is following you around, highlighting every single flaw, every stumble, every slightly weird outfit choice for the entire world to see. It's a really powerful cognitive bias, and it's all based on how focused we are on ourselves. And here is the proof, which I just find amazing. In this classic study, researchers made a college student wear a super embarrassing t-shirt. I'm talking a giant picture of Barry Manilow into a classroom full of other students. Now, the student who wore the shirt thought that about half the class, 50%, noticed it. But in reality, do you want to guess? Only about 25% actually did. They overestimated the attention on them by double. All right, so the second concept is a little bit more subtle, and it's called the illusion of transparency. This is that deep down belief that whatever you're feeling on the inside, your nervousness, your guilt, your excitement, is practically written all over your face. You feel like you have the worst poker face in the world. But the truth is, you're a much better secret keeper than you give yourself credit for. Okay, so we're all walking around feeling like we're in a spotlight that isn't really there, and we're convinced our feelings are leaking out when they're actually pretty well contained. So why? Why does our brain play these kinds of tricks on us? Well, it pretty much boils down to what's called an egocentric bias. Put simply, we are all the main character in our own movie. From our perspective, player one, right? We are intensely, painfully aware of our own inner monologue, our sweaty palms, our racing heart. But we totally forget that everyone else is also the main character in their own movie. They aren't sitting there scrutinizing you. They're absorbed in their own stuff, their deadlines, their own insecurities, what they're going to have for dinner. So this is the crucial point, the thing to really let sink in. It's not that people don't care about you. It's that they are far too busy starring in their own internal drama to notice all the subtle little cues you're absolutely convinced you're giving off. Let's look at another really powerful study. In this one, people were asked to lie, and then they had to guess how often they were caught. They predicted they'd be found out about half the time, but the actual results, the people they were lying to only caught them about a quarter of the time, which is basically just random chance. Your inner turmoil is just not that obvious to anybody else. Now, this gets a little more technical, but it's a really key distinction to make. Research shows the spotlight effect, that feeling of being watched. It really spikes in situations where we feel like we're being evaluated. You know, think giving a speech, a job interview, anywhere you feel judged. But that illusion of transparency, the sense that your feelings are visible, that's more of a constant, background hum. It's kind of always there, whether you're in the hot seat or just chatting with a friend. So knowing all this is one thing, but how do we actually use this information? Let's put together a little toolkit you can use to dim that imaginary spotlight and finally step out of its glare. Okay, here are 3 simple but really powerful strategies. First, awareness. Just knowing that the spotlight effect and the illusion of transparency are real things, real cognitive biases, that's half the battle right there. You can name the feeling, and that robs it of its power. Second, focus outward. Instead of trying so hard to be interesting, shift your focus to being interested. Ask people questions, actually listen. This simple shift moves the focus from you to them. And third, use the so what test. So what if you stumble over a word? So what if your idea isn't perfect?
Most of the time, the fallout we imagine is so much worse than the reality. And the flip side of this is just as important. Since people can't read your mind, if you actually want someone to know how you're feeling, you have to tell them. Don't just assume your stress is obvious or that your happiness is just radiating off you. A lot of unhappiness in the world comes from things being left unsaid. Clear communication is the cure. All right, let's bring this all together. We can frame this whole thing as a new mindset, one that helps you avoid what might be the two biggest mistakes we make when it comes to social anxiety and self-consciousness. Just let that sink in for a minute. The first big mistake is worrying about what other people think of you. And the second, and honestly more profound mistake, is believing that other people are thinking about you in the first place. Once you truly get that the whole premise is wrong, that people are not watching you nearly as much as you think, it's like pulling a single card out of a house of cards. The whole anxious structure just comes tumbling down. It's incredibly freeing. So I'll just leave you with this question. If you could walk through your life with a quiet confidence that the spotlight is off, that your thoughts are your own, and that you're totally free from constant judgment, what would you do differently? What opportunities would you take? What fears would you finally let go of? The stage is yours, and as it turns out, the audience is mostly just thinking